would you address, as a pastor, how would you address leadership that this does not contribute whatsoever?
So when you help me understand what you mean by leadership, so is that staff level paid leadership, or is that deacon leadership, or okay? So for staff leadership, both of these, in both instances, it's a biblical issue. We've established a biblical need for wise and godly stewardship. I think you lay that out there before them as an expectation. And so where it gets tricky is how do you hold them accountable to that? Okay. So in our church, I don't know who gives what. I know what I give. And I know that a couple years ago, our associate pastor did a whole series. I was on sabbatical. He did a whole 8-week series on stewardship. Okay. One of the things he did as a part of that is he went to our business administrator and said, I don't want to know who, but I want to know how. How is our staff giving? What percentage of our staff gives? What percentage of our deacon body gives? Okay. And he said, I want names and stuff like that. So he could report back, you know. And in both cases, 95% of both of those areas give consistently. That was the key, was consistently. And so I think if there are areas, at least for those that are on staff that are paid, you could almost set that as a condition of employment that's maybe not written but spoken, and say, you know, if you're not willing to do this, we will help you find a place somewhere else, because you can't lead people to a place that you're not at. Okay, for leadership. For deacon leadership, especially Sunday school teachers, it's a little more tricky. But I think you just continually keep God's word in front of them, and you pray them through that. You know, and it's simple. Ward talked about earlier. You know, not everybody can afford 10% right off the top. But if I encourage people to give what you can. All right, and if it's $5 a month, then give $5 a month, and then when you can do more, do 1%. I think part of that is building in them the habit of doing it. They may look at the 10% as Mount Everest and say, I can never get there. And so you give them some smaller goals in order to do that. And I think you just keep it in front of them and encourage them as leaders, saying, you're the pace setters of our church. And so how your leadership goes is how your church is going to go. And so that begins with pastors. That begins with you. You're going to be at the top of the org chart. And so you can't encourage your church to be generous if you're not generous. And so then you can't lead your staff to be generous if you're not generous. You can't lead your leaders to be generous if you're not generous. So is that helpful? Okay. All right. Yes, sir.
So what about when it's a trust issue on the leadership? When I say trust issue on the leadership, the previous leadership that were before us, we talking about pastors that actually come in, walking spiritually, come in wanting to do what God has, the previous leadership caused the church to have a trust issue.
Okay.
And so therefore cannot readily give what the church is actually needing.
Okay.
The leadership that's there now.
Got it. Okay. So this is how I would address that. Honesty. Okay. One of those is say, you know, that was then, this is now. There's a new sheriff in town, right? We're going to do things differently. But with honesty, there's also transparency. And so, you know, at least monthly, you're providing some kind of report to your church of this is what we received, this is what we needed, and this is what we spent. Okay, just a real simple budget report. And what happens is people begin to see, you know, as we're putting budgets together and putting them out before people and helping them to see that every dollar matters, you know, that we're naming it. Hey, you know, when you give $20, that $20 is going to reach, you know, this neighborhood, or it's going to provide food for this needy family or whatever. Where there's some transparency and honesty, I believe people will come around. Is that helpful? It's helpful because I'm not the one who has to do it. So, all right. Yeah, Steve.
One thing, you had mentioned the evangelical council on financial accountability. I obviously might take some people and get them to be the liaisons between the two, and so they can be the ones to say, well, we know what's being done right now.
Yeah.
My question is this: there seems to be a disparity between your old-time faithful tithers and millennials that think they come to church once a month. That's regular.
Right.
And if they give $5, that's sacrificial.
Sure.
I mean, wouldn't it,
Now you've gone from preaching to meddling, brother.
doesn't it go hand in hand with, maybe having some personal development in their own family budget?
Sure.
Before
Sure.
they can really help in the church budget, but a lot of them, they're tied into the interest on their credit card.
Absolutely. So one of the things that Ward said earlier and is this: stewardship is a discipleship issue. Stewardship is a discipleship issue. And so a lot of the things that Larry's about to come up and teach us about on the personal side of things, these are things that you can go and you take back to your church and you teach them how to handle their personal finances. And here's what you're going to find. When people learn how to handle their personal finances well, your church finances flourish. Okay? And so anyway, but it's for millennials, and I know we got a couple of millennials in here. Here's the thing. You want millennials to give, you have to give them a purpose for giving. They give to something. They give to something that makes a difference. So if you're not proving that your church budget is making a difference, they're probably not going to support it. But if you show them, hey, this is where our dollars are going, and here are stories about people who've benefited from that, man, it's like wildfire. So, all right, very good. Larry, why don't you come and share with us some more things on the personal side?
Thank you, Troy. Kind of to follow up on that, as far as accountability and transparency, one of the things that we do at Sugarland Baptist is every week when we have the church bulletin, the handout in the church service, on the back page of that is a little tiny financial synopsis. There's a previous week's giving and a year-to-date. Our fiscal year is April the 1st through March the 31st. And so we have a little mini transparency accountability. It says last week's receipts, year-to-date receipts, year-to-date spending, how much we are above or below the church budget that was approved whenever that was approved. And so it's not, and then once a quarter, we will have a regular church business meeting, and in that church business meeting, we give them, like Troy was talking about, a monthly accounting of all the receipts and all the expenses and a net over/under for that month. And we even go so far as to tell them, oh, by the way, last month we had 5 Sundays and the month before that we had 4 Sundays, so that they can do a little bit of math on their own to see, okay, we're on track or we're not on track. And also, you have to remind people, I think, from a church standpoint, that there are going to be natural highs and lows, ebbs and flows in church receipts. As you would imagine, the highest period of church giving is when?
First of the month.
And in your fiscal year, when is that? December, that's exactly right. So, and when is probably going to be your level or one of the levels of highest expenditures? In the summer. Vacation Bible School, fine arts camps, youth camps, all of these sorts of things. There is a draw on that. So that's one of the things that you have to remind your congregation about. Okay, we're entering that time when the giving is low because your attendance goes down and all of these things. And so that's part of setting some back in those times of lesser giving and higher receipts, higher expenditures. Does that help?
That helps.
Okay.